and welcome to Love Speaks Love. I'm Denise, your host, and I have the beautiful, is it Delia or Delia?
Um, Both, but I listen more to Delia.
Cool. Delia is what I would have said, but I heard someone say, I think Todd said Delia the other day, and I was like, maybe that's how you prefer it. Okay, so I'm going to share it to a few platforms. If anyone watching wishes to share it, especially to any groups, because I'm not really in that many groups that I feel I can actually share Love Speaks Love to. So just bear with us while we do that. And also bear with us because we were both saying how disconnected we feel today. Like, I don't exactly feel not grounded, but I feel slightly absent. So I'm assuming from that the energy for the show is going to be really strong. But I'm also packing my stuff as well. So I think that just, when everything starts to get a little bit chaotic around you as well, I think that might have something to do with it. All right, double checking that we're live. I'll just turn the phone down. There we are. Okay, share it there. All right, that's the shares done. So Love Speaks Love, for those of you that don't know, is a platform for conversation and to share wisdom, experience. And part of my goal for this was really to help people be in their heart space, and also to bring us all together, to kind of like bring community together and create community as well. And I think this might be number 44. It wouldn't surprise me if it was number 44 for this one. As both liking our master numbers and geometries. So Delia has been in my awareness actually not that long, probably since you were on with Todd in July. And you've probably been commenting a lot longer than that, but sometimes it takes a while for people's energies to kind of filter through. So over the last few months, I've been much more aware of your presence. And I don't know when we first connected. It feels a long time ago, but I don't think it's probably that long. So I don't know if you want to share anything of your journey of how you came to be doing the work that you're doing, because we do similar things. Like you do energy work as well. You learn reiki, and do you work with crystals too?
I do a lot of my meditations and connections with crystals. I do have crystal grids going, but more or less, it's just more intuitive stuff that I mostly tune into.
Yeah.
Let's see, to begin, well, let's see, I have to go back since I was a child. um, I've never really been what they call normal overall. I wasn't a little cookie cutter kid. So when I was little, it took me, I think, about 1 to 2 years before I learned how to walk.
Wow.
And it wasn't like I had any issues. Reality of this, I would just get up, I stand up, and I would be like, okay, how do I use my legs? I didn't know how to use that. And in getting back in tune with the body, it's like, wait, I'm not in my normal form, where over there in the etheric, the power of thought is just creates, moves, and does everything towards you overall with manifestation. So even as a child, I would be my favorite part to do was climb a rock and just look at the sun. Who knew that sun gazing is supposed to be burning your retinas? But yeah, it just goes from there, being very sensitive, listening to a lot of the etherics that were multi-layered, And I even had a ghost friend when I was a child. So I was like, oh, doesn't anybody have that? So evidently, it's more like programming happen. And when programming happens and trauma happens, a lot of things start to shift. And I didn't start to remember myself once again fully until after my divorce, since I married at a young age. And overall, just finding myself all over again. Um, I was married to somebody that was very narcissist. Um, Low key manipulation eventually happened and everything else. So I was married for 11 years. And just in the end of things, I just decided I can't do this anymore. And he was actually very intuitive as well. It's just his mind was more towards possession, more towards money, greed, things like that. And I wasn't vibing with that. Just the energy of things, that it really pushed me to go for and find more of myself, finding my strength. I was extremely overweight at one point in my marriage, so I started looking for getting back into healthy, losing weight, and in that journey, that's where I really started getting more sensitive to a lot of things. So I have a lot of food allergies as well. So it's eliminating certain things, changing that way I eat, to detoxify once again the body, the mind, and then evidently I was doing that for my soul too. In that process, it really launched me to do this healing from detoxification from the emotional trauma to everything else that was happening in and all around me, to really catapult me into leaning back again, back into my true self as that little joyful child that I once was. So it was a really long journey, but just even as a child, my first contact that I had um, was Palladians. And I had an experience and everything else with those beings. And it was so strong that it stood with me. And with this process unfolding, is just coming back up again and then finally realizing who they were, is just really like, oh, there's a lot more. Okay, my antenna really is sticking out there.
How old were you when that happened?
I think it was like around fifth grade. So mm, must have been like 10, 11, around those around that time. Um it was just so traumatic at point, just because I was in my bed and it was in a back room that was kind of separate from the house. And it was our playroom, and we had it was big enough that we fit two, three beds in there for us. But some of them, sometimes my brothers and sisters didn't like it, that they would go away towards the other room where they normally like to sleep. And we had a sky view portion and everything else. And I remember just falling asleep, and next thing I know, I'm somewhere else, and the Palladians are talking about the message of love, the deep connection to humanity, why they're here. And in that same one, this is what people don't talk about, that we do experience those grays as well. Um, as far as I know, my dad has had experiences as well. So we often know that when one family is tracked, they check on the others.
Yeah.
That's how I woke up in the middle. So when re-entry happened in my body, I woke up already mid-run to a freak out to my mom, like, oh my God, they're here. So it took a while, evidently, just to kind of figure out what was going on. Because I was a child, I didn't know any better. I didn't know what was going on. To really pull through with oh, okay, I see now what's happening. I see the messages, I see the connection and everything else. So it's been interesting, at least for that. I know that many other family members have had some experiences to extent. And I even now I see that there's a lot more people that are starting to really see with the naked eye objects and everything else. So it's really bringing up something different for humanity. Be like, oh, okay, there's something much greater than just us.
Yeah.
Because to think that we're the only people in a petri dish that's just a little micro side on this side and there's nothing but cosmos on the other side, it's it's insanity.
Yeah, it's not logical, is it, at all? Like it doesn't make sense on
No.
any kind of level. Um, and I think for me, the Pleiadians were, because I was aware of presences. This was after I learned Reiki, like not before. Um, and at the time, really, there was only the Pleiadians that I knew anything about. Like I read some of Barbara Marciniak's work, like Bringers of the Dawn, um, and Barbara Han Clow as well. So the Pleiadians were the ones predominantly that people kind of wrote about, say, 20 years ago. Um, and so contact now, do you feel their presence when you do your work, when you do your healing work?
It just depends. If I do Reiki with people that's even distance or even in person, the energies often change.
Yeah,
So if you have a very strong energy, the trees and the fairies are definitely going to step in. And if Star Family has something to add into that, they'll step in. I don't do translation when the Reiki the light language comes in.
yeah.
I've tried it with my best friend who I live with, and it's just like, you know what, I can't. He says, I can tell you what it feels like after, but at this moment, I just have to do it this way.
Mm.
And it was also me learning to stop getting in my way about it. So it was interesting overall. But if they're more into if they feel very star family as well for me, I know that they're gonna have different aspects and they'll come in, whatever that is, and intuitive tap into the field and be like, oh, I'm really getting this sense. So then when I'm having I FaceTime them and we're having this conversation. Oh, this is what I got. Oh, okay, I see why this is coming out to you. And then, of course, if they're very sensitive to animals, I pick up on what's that animals and everything else, the animal kingdom's trying to say overall. And it's very beautiful to see the connection after we talk and be like, oh, okay, I see why this is happening. Oh, I see, understand what the message is, and go from there as well for them, because it's a little bit further expansion as well for them.
Do you do card readings as well, or is your
I do. I do. I do. I have several tarot cards as well as oracle cards. I tend to do more of spirit message. If somebody's asking me what's going on surrounding me, I had a friend of mine pay for a reading for a cousin of his. So I was like, okay, that's no problem. I'll do this. And I was like, oh, I was telling her, I was like, hey, I'm seeing a lot of this. I know it's not this, but it feels something like that. And I kept going and going. And I was like, is this making sense to you? And she was like, yes, it's making so much sense. And I would be like, okay, well, what is this about? Because I don't feel like this is it. And we went in depth into it. And I was like, okay, I'm starting to see the message being pulled together. But it's also intuitive that it really does. Cards just kind of help you visually, and I'm a very visual person. And even with my spirit guides and my team, they'll show me where to pull my eyes to. They'll pop something in my mind as a picture as it unfolds, so I know more or less where it's in, like, expanding to. So I do all that too. It's like, I think a lot of us have like our, I wouldn't want to put that bag of tricks, but we do have an expansion of tools that we can go back and forth with. And I do more of oracle cards and activations. I have a lot of activators. because I found too that I draw a lot of light language activations. I haven't made them so much public yet, and I've been working on some. But when they come in, is I'm still learning. It's like, oh, okay, how does it want to be created? Because it's sometimes it's so fast. It's so fast that you're like, okay, wait. Human mind needs to catch up. And I've found too that sometimes when I see something, I pop open Facebook and somebody has a perfect rendition of one or two things from the light language in a picture, and I'm like, oh my god, that's what I've seen. So it makes me feel like, oh, okay, I feel really comfortable with that. To start really pulling that more in, because so when I do light language, right now when I'm asked, when I go running, I activate, of course, and this is what I've learned last time with Susanna Mara. She showed me one about the light ship overall activators, the healing ships, and she does amazing, beautiful art that it really is technology.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was Arcturian, so I was very familiar with it, and I was like, feels very familiar. The center is where I would be standing. And she's like, well, do you know this is technology? And I was like, okay, I understand that. So learning the energetics of what comes through in as sacred geometry as well for us. When we're walking, talking, and speaking and finding people, we're also activating everything else around us in our field. And I've been doing this intuitively, and then I was like, she made that connection for me, so I was like, oh, okay, now I know more or less, because by nature I am a healer. I'm healing overall. That's been my jam. But expansion further into that, into the quantum field, it's been really, really strong lately in my field, and I really love to see how that expands for humanity when they start realizing the alignment of the human mind, the power of the thought, and the power of emotion behind that, and learning how to be present in order to catapult themselves into further expansion. Not only that, but to really do instant healing and releasing old layers and traumas that we keep having to relieve in our energetic field. So
Yeah, I want to kind of probe a bit deeper about the healing stuff. But before I do, I realised that I kept thinking there's something missing. There's something missing. What is it? And I'm like, I've shared it everywhere. And normally I do the little visualization at the beginning, the heart to heart connect. So I'm going to do that now because it feels odd that I haven't. I feel wonky because I haven't done it. So a little bit later than usual, but let's just do that now. So thank you, Delia, and thank you for everyone joining us. And let's just join all of our hearts together. So let's bring our awareness to our heart space in the center of our chest. And breathe love into our beautiful hearts. And feeling the energy of our hearts expanding as we breathe in love. And we can breathe out anything of the day so far, or the day ahead, or the week. Anything that's preventing us from being in this now moment. And breathing love into every cell of our bodies. So feeling my heart connecting to yours, Delia, and connecting to everybody watching us live, or on the replay, or on YouTube. And let's connect our hearts now to the heart of Gaia. So feeling our awareness going deep into the earth, connecting with the new earth templates, the crystalline matrix, and the crystalline diamond heart of Gaia. And feeling her loving, supporting and nurturing energy. Feeling that returning to us through our hearts. And her beautiful energies moving into every cell of our bodies. And feeling our hearts now connecting with the heart of the sun. And feeling the sun's energy moving into our bodies, into our solar plexus, into every cell. And connecting our hearts now to Source Creator, the great cosmic heart. And breathing in more love. And breathing out love now. That's better. So when were you first attuned to Reiki? What year?
Let's see, 16, I think 2016, 2017. I've naturally always worked with energy.
Yeah.
But an attunement was around that time. It was my best friend, and since she knows that I work with a lot of energy, she was able to do both, and that was the guidance that they gave her to do one and two together.
Yeah.
That night, though, the initiation, that in dream state, the etheric, was powerful. That even messaged somebody called Angel Whisper that speaks to angels. And just think I told her, oh my God, I had this dream and the experience that I had. But it was really more of the initiation to the violet flame as well as to the wisdom ray. And I wasn't too aware of the wisdom ray, but it's something that's been coming up for me for the long time. So I was like, oh, okay, I would definitely get into that. So when I went in through my initiation, my first meeting was actually with the violet flame dragon.
Ooh.
So it was an interesting dose actually to just go into a cave where the cave in the mountain turns into the cosmic cosmos. Then I'm looking down and there's the violet flame and you can see the cosmos on the floor, the cosmos everywhere. And this dragon is speaking to me. And I see strong aspects of the other rays that are there talking to me. And I can't remember what was the conversation, but when I was awakened, that's a really strong energy that I was like, okay, I'm gonna have to let her know all this stuff what happened. I'll save it and send it to her in an appropriate time, because I think it was like 3 a.m. Energy sometimes is so strong that it wakes me up from my sleep or where I'm having travels or whatever. So it was really interesting. And from there I was pulled to Ascended Masters. And evidently, down the line, when I started doing some stuff and me and my friend ended up doing a trip to Shasta, I was brought to a book with the Ascended Masters. Evidently, I started reading it and I realized that during the time where me and my ex-husband moved and we split our properties and whatever was ours and his or whatever, there was a book that he had purchased that would belong to him. He read it, but I think he also himself didn't understand it, and it was about auras. So I read it while I was doing my healing, and I was like, oh, okay, I understand the auric fields and everything else. Okay, that's more in depth. But it was written in a wording of very Christian background of it. And I was like, oh, I don't really resonate with religion. Whatever. Finished reading it, put it aside. Then I found it again and I read it with a little bit more awareness and expansion. I'll be like, oh, I understand where they're talking about the Christ consciousness,
Mm.
the Christ light. It's not religious aspect, really. And as I'm starting to see further expansion. And I mean, it's one of my favorite books. I have like sticky notes all over it, markings, everything. And then I kept going back to it, and in prayers and everything else in expansion. So it was very after, with layers of awareness and things that have come up in my field, I began to really understand it and how powerful all that really is. And really matched up to the book that I had found in Mount Shasta, to be like, oh, okay, so these two go together.
Mm.
So these two things go together to really learn the differences. And besides the rays, the angels, and everything else, to really understand that there's so much more out there for us, not just the star family, but also the angelic, the Davis, and even what consciousness. There's a lot of different consciousness layered for us here that we're able to access. So it was beautiful overall in that Reiki attunement to really push me further down in that. Since most of my time, I've said before, my antenna is really up there in the cosmos. So with this Reiki, really did and catapult me further with my meditations to be more of an open channel and really be with myself. And even before that, I had friends that will contact me and they'll send each other, oh, I found this meditation. I found this meditation. And Sandra Walters, Christ consciousness light activation, the DNA one,
Mm-hmm.
that one has been my top favorite to use from time to time, to really not only expand and do energy work when I'm called to do grid work, or the whatever areas I'm being called to use my energy with, to really do a clearing and expansion of just to hold that area.
Yeah, interesting. And I hear you on the Reiki attunements, and that's always been my experience as well. And when I attune people, like, it still blows me away. There is a distinct difference before and after the attunement. There is a definite something definitely happens during the attunement. People open up more. Their channel is a lot more clear. And even people who've done Reiki for years or done energy work for years. I remember a lady who'd been a spiritual healer for 20 years. Straight after the attunement, she was putting her hands together and she was just like, wow, she couldn't believe the difference. And each time you go up, or each time you have a different attunement as well, again, you have your cleanse, you cleanse yourself of more of the denser energy, and there's more space for light. I'm not entirely clear in my head exactly what happens when you have an attunement. Like, this is probably my left brain kind of questioning precisely what happens when people have an attunement. The way that I used to describe it, and I still do, but it kind of doesn't feel quite right, is that it connects you to source. And it, but I still don't actually physically, I still don't quite get how those symbols and the intention make you more of a channel. And I guess we could do that on our own without an attunement anyway, but there is a distinct, and it's not just that it to me, it's not just that it goes up a little bit, it goes up significantly. That, like, as I said before, there's a definite difference before and after. um yeah, anything you could add to that to kind of like make the picture clearer?
Well, I had been doing a cleanse before that. I was guided by my angels to just do a cleanse, and I had done vegetarian, I think, for a year and a half. And I didn't realize that before leading up to the attunement, I actually ended up just doing vegan, plant-based only, because I do have a lot of food allergies. So I'm like, oh, might as well, it's easier. So I've actually got to the point that sensitivity of it. And during that time, I was going through a detox and the guidance that when I got the attunement, I felt like the pillar of light just literally got brought down back to you.
Yeah.
And whatever blockages that we had in our crowns, I mean, we might have been open, but it's like old programs, old muck that was still there. It just like popped off to really, really push you and catapult you further out into expansion of your energy to really just begin. And I mean, even I cannot describe it. I'm still trying to remember like what happened to me.
It's almost like the
Yeah,
veil
like
suddenly gets thinner. It's like our personal veil is kind of like popped almost as well. And I hear you on the channel because I see us as being a channel down our center, and it's like that expands as well so that more energy can come in through your crown. But yeah, it's like the lid is really taken off the crown, but it's everywhere. It's like, because I guess we're not just getting the information from our crown either. It's like everything just gets a lot more open in the attunement, and you're a lot more sensitive, sensitive to light, sensitive to sound, sensitive to anything really, energy as well.
yeah, I think what really helped me though, even leading up to that, um, even before the Reiki, I've been doing my version of energy healing since I had what you call in Spanish a healer, a curandera. I had to do training with her. In my experience, if I tell it to people, it sounds like a horror movie sometimes, to really see a manifestation of when somebody does some harm into another body. So I mean, if somebody used a rat in sacrifice and we're doing a cleansing and prayer over them, I was the one that would pray, put my hand into their mouth, and pull out that said rat
Yeah.
manifestation energy that they use. So it's interesting. But since I already knew the power of prayer and power of everything and intention and what somebody does, I started also doing frequency healings. Um, Overall, just pure tone.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're watching and you are interested in doing that, try 10-15 minutes. Don't go full on and go to sleep with it at night. Fair warning. I did that in the couple times that in the middle of the night I woke up with just hard wrenching tears. It's really activated the heart chakra, and I was doing some releasing and I didn't understand what was happening, and I was like, why am I crying? And in that too, in asking that question, all these things just start flooding. I was like, you're crying because of this, you're crying because of that, you're releasing this, you're releasing that. So it's interesting. So I'm really sensitive to music and tone, and that's part of what I also use when I'm doing healing, or even if I'm talking to somebody, I'm having tone like 528 gigahertz, DNA activation, angelic frequency going on somewhere in the background. Or I mean, I got used to having what they would consider tendinitis going on. So when you start feeling that energy, you're like, oh, okay, I understand. Evidently it's going to integrate, it's going to come to my awareness. I have a feeling what it is, and then move from there. But yeah, I mean, tone overall was really sensitivity. So with Reiki on top of that, it really just kind of shifted into also being able to use that frequency and push it out. I don't know if people do that, or people have learned to experiment with that just yet.
Oh, I had a question when you and it's just slipped out. What was it? Um, yeah, I think it was to do with, so when I'm doing a session, my hands are really sensitive. Like I feel a lot through my hands. Um, but it's like my hands and my eyes, but everything has got more sensitive. So I'll see more, almost hear more. Like it's almost like you're hearing the tone of the body as well, and hearing how it changes when you're working with the energy. But to me, the what I was going to lead on to, because you touched on this, was sound. So for me, bringing the light in is amazing, and there's so many tricks you can do with the body to kind of like break up the energy when it's stuck. But for me, the most powerful thing was sound. So I used to use chimes on the body, and then started to use my voice. So you do the same as well. Do you tone into the body, or is it purely light language?
I think even with light language, I mean, I was on light language lounge, and in that channel, out of nowhere, I was toning in the middle of light language, and she spoke onto a little bit further out. It's like, oh, when I did it, it was toning, and I didn't realize what I was doing. And she was talking about her early beginning journey of when she started. So I was like, oh, okay, this makes sense. But it's also the amplification. And I know that there's part of the energy that was coming in, because I've never heard myself go that long into in a toning, and then in midway change it to a different pitch and then continue toning.
Wow.
So it was interesting. I never really know what's gonna come out when I tone. I mean, the last time I did light language with Todd on live, I the energy of it was so massive that I actually crashed my laptop. Like totally crashed, and I had to pop back in and do what I needed to do. And I've heard also that I also froze, which is funny because I was actually on Ethernet. I wasn't even on Wi-Fi. So
Was that the one where you froze with a really beautiful smile? Was that the one with on, or was that a different one?
oh yeah, with yeah.
Yeah, my Todd's shows have been crashing my computer recently. Like almost every time. I'm like, oh, it's happened again. Um, and when you do you talk me oh, what should I ask you to talk me through? Because I want to speak to you about the work on the land as well, about grid work. But I think I'll just go a bit further with the body work. So one of the things that I do, whether or not I'm with somebody or not, is kind of scan the body with my hand, but I'm also kind of scanning with the eyes as well. It's like my hands give me vision sometimes, and I can feel when an area is stuck. I can feel when it's not flowing very well. I can feel, you might feel heat in certain places or cold, but I can more than that feel when it's stuck. And I feel like I'm going very deep into the body as well, like kind of subatomic kind of levels. Sometimes I might get sensations in my own body. How do you get your feedback from the body?
This is actually before I became it, overall with Reiki, the attunement. I have a friend that were in a group that she was having some thyroid issues. So I was having the guidance, and this is where Archangel Raphael, who's the Archangel of healing and everything else, was kind of guiding me and trying teaching me like, hey, this is the way you do it. So I had asked her, I was like, hey, they're asking me to do something. Would you be willing to, like, do you mind if I do it? She's like, no, I'm open to it. I was like, okay, well, they're asking me for a picture of you, so I know visually how to tap into your energy and to do it. So she didn't feel comfortable with doing that. So I was like, okay, I'm just going to tune into you, your name. I know how you write. I know how you speak. I can understand your energy through our groups. So, I mean, everybody has a certain flavor, per se, of personality. So, I was tapping into that flavor of personality, and I was in meditation. And I actually happened to be in a sauna at the gym. I had my headphones on, totally tuned in. I had asked the angels that all negative energy just be gone, which is funny because sometimes everybody that's there is very negative, and out of nowhere, I just see them pick up and leave. So I was like, okay, thank you. So I set my space, my intention with energy and prayer. And then he was showing me to go into meditation. And I think I went towards a semi-trance. I had a crystal in my hand and I started feeling in my body where was. And I started rubbing with the crystal and dissipating and sending healing energy through my body to that energetic field for her, as in I became her.
Mm-hmm.
And I sent her a message and I told her, okay, this is where I got. And then she messaged me back saying, yeah, that's exactly where it's at. And I was like, okay, that makes sense. Um, and then after with the attunement of Reiki, going through the process and everything else and tuning into the body, my body was telling me where it was. So I recently did one where there was something towards the back of the head, and I was like, I don't know what that issue is, but it feels like a trauma being released. There needs to be forgivingness going on. I don't see something that's necessarily there, but it's bothering me, meaning it's really emotionally bothering you that's still not forgiven or healed. So talking to her afterwards, she told me a little bit about it, and I was like, okay, that totally makes sense. But most of the time I use my body as guidance, and I've done it too as like the Mexican healer, the curandera, had taught me as well as to use a candle for guidance, to really go over the body with the body, and if it flickered really strongly, that's where it also was.
Yeah.
I've only used that technique where my hands are feeling certain spots and I'm not sure exactly. Sometimes it's cool, sometimes it's warm. So that's the only resort I've actually gone to, is like, oh, okay, double check. Since there was a lot of stuff going on in with that person, but at the same time, it's more of like, is it energy that needs to be lifted, or is just surrounding energetic field that needs to be cleared up? Because if it's not really the body, yes, the body is very powerful and is antenna to what's happening all around us. So it can turn to stress into disease. And at the same time, it can be our energetic field that's because we're too much here in the mind that it's mucking around the energy all around.
Mm-hmm.
And the body has one or two symptoms, but really the body really isn't the issue.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I've seen a lot of those things, but as for processes for body and scanning, I've done that. Or if it's really strong, they'll tell me, it's like, hey, this is it. And it just depends on the energy that's coming in. A lot of it is Archangel Raphael, was my teacher, even before my attuning.
Yeah, interesting. I've always worked more closely with Archangel Michael. Like Raphael was always present, um, but Archangel Michael was the one that I would connect with all the time. Like not just in healings, but all the time. Like he was the one that was kind of always with me. And I do use the past tense because there came a point, um, like I do still call upon Archangel Michael sometimes, but in sessions, like when I would release negative energy from the body, and sometimes I'd pull it out, like if there were cords, weapons in the body, knives, that kind of thing, I would pull them out and pass them over to Archangel Michael. And it got to a point in sessions where it was almost like he was standing there with his hands behind his back going, and I was like, and I was instructed to violet flame it myself and kind of like, blow violet flame onto it and or use a golden cylinder and just let it go up to the light. But there came a point in sessions where it was kind of like, no, you can do this. You don't need us so much anymore, which was quite interesting. And I think there was a shift internally with me as well, And now I kind of work a lot with the galactics. I'm quite intrigued by the galactics. I particularly like working with the Arcturians. And when I do the light language, it always feels like it's source codes. Like I can't say this is Arcturian or it's Andromedan or whatever. And even with the light language, it feels like there's a lot of frequencies come through at the same time. There might be one that's more at the forefront, but it's kind of like everyone's there speaking through me at the same time, really. But I do, I think so many of us have a particular affinity with the Arcturians. I don't know if it's because their frequency is higher. They just seem to be the guides for everybody. Like with Andromedans or with anyone, it just seems like the Arcturians are kind of leading the way a little bit. It's like the others perhaps ask them for help a bit as well. I don't know if that's your feeling too.
Well, I think how would I put it? Maybe about a couple of years back, it would have been the Palladians, and I think there was that shift overall that happened, and the awareness of who are the Arcturians and how that introduction actually happened in your awareness. It's I find them to be messengers.
Mm.
Somebody popped out and brought the Arcturians into my field, and it made so much sense of certain things, and I started having experiences with the Arcturians. um, and then from then on, just because the higher the vibration it was, it felt so at home with me. Then I know there's this a YouTuber that she does light language. Her name is Lightstar, and she just announced on her YouTube that she will be coming on soon on with Todd, which I'm
Oh.
ecstatic for. So she does Arcturian language with visuals, and she has activators, which I actually purchased from her. And I've been using her since 2015, 2016. So when she did Arcturians, and I know it's exactly at 10, 11 where it begins, that overall, the activation, when I first listened to it, I even left a comment to her. It's like, you have no idea. It felt so much familiarity, so much stuff happened to me. I was bawling. It felt beautiful. So whenever I hear that, I feel the connection. It just brings me tears to my eyes because of the expansion and the love in the transmission or in transmissions,
Mm-hmm.
since it's very familiar to me, that it really brought so much stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then evidently other material came to me afterwards that I was guided to, that was towards the Arcturians, that made a lot of sense, and it was about expansion. And it's one of those it's material that you go over and over and over again, and of course has sticky notes on there too, that you're like, oh, okay, an expansion happened. But when we start merging what really is going on scientifically, spiritually, in the quantum field, that's really where the expansion of humanity is having the kickoff.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, they've been really scientific at the same time, energetic in the way that they do things. And this has goes towards what I do when I go running and I'm working on a specific area, like say my city or the cities around me. It is that same thing that Susan Amara had mentioned to me, that it is actually a technology, light technology, that we tap into, that it really is what we're using, because we are the vessel of it. And it's interesting to see in the dimensionalities how we use overall sacred geometry, because
Mm-hmm.
we might see sacred geometry, and even though we see it in 2D, there's so much mode more in the code, that if we were to really switch it into a more of a model where it's being amplified, not just 3D, but really take it up to higher aspects, we're going to see a lot of facets that are there that our human mind normally does usually misses. So when we see a dial or something, that dial is also spinning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when I go and I do these things, it's not one or two dials, it's multiple, and they're spinning in very different rotations. And they mean something. But I'm not going to be concentrated in what does this mean? Why is that there? And everything else. Where I'm really being pushed at, it's like, okay, this is the energetic field. Boom, go. This is what you need to be doing. And sometimes when I run, I, I'm slow, but I do maybe 4 or 5 miles, which is, I normally would be like 1 mile, I'm dead. Just because the much energy that's in coming in, and to really, even in between in the entire running process, I'm also doing what I've been on the Zooms with, listening to Todd, and he's like on there, he's like, oh hey Dali, what are you doing? And I was like, oh yeah, just anchoring. Running. Happen to see my notification, I'll pop it open, I'll put it back in my pocket, continue doing it and listening to what's being said. And at the same time, my mind is expanded to the point that I'm also focusing on the outside and the energetics, because whatever they're also tapping into and they're having that conversation, it's also being brought forth and amplifying it out. So anchoring energy, doing light language, using my hands, running. And
Mm.
normally I'm really good. It's the fact that the trail is pretty big. There's not a lot of people behind me. So I don't feel funny about it and I feel comfortable doing it. So it's interesting the expansion that's happening with that.
Yeah, I hear you on that. And I don't run, but I walk. And when I'm out in nature, I am often asked, guided to, be doing different things with my hands, like bringing different frequencies down. So many figure of eights, like it's so often figure of eights that are coming through, and really, I guess, reactivating the song lines. A lot of the energy lines have been closed off, so we're reactivating them all now, and and kind of bringing new frequencies in. So it's not just, it's like we're activating the old lines but putting new frequencies in as well. So creating new lines really from the old ones.
So when I was in the group and we were sharing, and while there was a lot of light language going on, the transmission I got, and it's fast. So I have a notepad near me, and with my scrawly hand, because it's coming so fast that I really don't pick up my pen off the paper. What I got was basically old timeline grids and everything else, old construct that also includes the DNA code. It's really being they said reconstructed, but they said demolished.
Yeah.
That reality is we're not building with that, whatever the grubble is, it's really is being used and put in and implemented with new material.
Yeah.
And we're not using that old blueprint. Even though the blueprint's there, they're making it better.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. I guess I'll save this. I don't know what I will do a post after. There's a lot of stuff coming in since we've all been feeling kind of off planet. We're still doing a lot of work. Like I've mentioned before we went live, it's like, I don't know what day I'm on, but I dreamt, it wasn't yesterday. I think it was yesterday morning. Because I fell asleep at 12 a.m. Has so much energy was coming in. Um, Yesterday morning when I fell asleep, that I was going through sleeping and closing my eyes. And as I closed my eyes, I just felt a bunch of energy just in my third eye. It's like that meditation when you start seeing colors. It wasn't one color, it was massive ones, but at the same time, I felt like my eyes are open. So I opened my eyes. Sure enough, whatever I was seeing, it was right up in front of me. And I have a really dark room. When I sleep, I like to have it dark. But I have really good eyesight in the dark that I can tell where materials are at, what are darker, what's what, where's what. So if I wake up in the middle of the night, I don't trip and fall. So to have all this light coming at me, it was just surreal, but it felt like the energy just pulled me into nothing but divine love. And I think who's that, Eva Alta, um she mentioned it in one of the lives, and I said it really felt like I was having a mushroom trip without the mushrooms. And I really felt breathing in love, and I've only felt that a couple times, but it's the energetics, and I was like, oh my god, I really love breathing in love. The energy of it, it really expands your heart so much that I was laying down and I was just nothing but crying of happiness. And I didn't want to move. I was like, I'm enjoying this, to the point that all the water was going to my ears. And I was like, I don't care. I'm loving it. So it's interesting that overall, being bathed in the energy, and I don't know what else happened from all of that. But then I got pulled into sleep, and I'm sure I went and did a lot of work. But to have those experiences and you're awake, full knowledge right in front of your eyes, seeing this, it's taking things a little further into what's happening, what we're going to be doing from here on out, and the sensitivity of what we're becoming.
Yeah, it's so exciting. Um, and it just seems, it feels like we've done a lot of the foundational work, but we're really building on those foundations as well now. Like really, it still feels like there's a lot to do. Um, and it's, some of it is the New Earth templates. It's kind of like for everything. It's for the life on Earth. It's for all the systems that we're working with. We're building foundations for everything, because it starts with the energy. The physical comes after. It's the energy that is there first. Now we're kind of pretty much at the hour, but I'd love to share some light language with you if you are able to stay for a little bit longer.
Yeah, that's no problem. I'm early morning for me here, so I have this is the kickoff.
Would you like to share some codes, or shall I?
You can begin. I'll see. I'll tap in and see what comes in.
All right. Okay, so I just invite us all to bring our awareness to our hearts. Hian erikia maro tokuna makile, e hian aron umpana kile iast ud ara. Kele hiamana kiele eron no kuna makiparan. E ast or adet la paket la paket la paket la paket. Ene hiam bara la kiena kada la pakudu la paket. E kero ut ust aparta a de para di e para aki da a. He illa aran no id uist aran makiuit toi. Hol ana mani yaro no koko kuna. Hele east on ai. El ea an okol era ust aram. Hol e atatoton. Hol era nhamo uit ara. Od ara kima ero dunia. Hel e hano kol it est. Hol era namaki la paket la paket la paket.
Wow. Whew, that was great. Dia shata ter votot siete shata yal vontot siete al or otot siete dia sieta tient ot iets ut otodor vat etel it ot arvantate dia shata od ori lemont odire titiatevo or odititie dieshete diar votet siete arf o tititi siete tar vatitsia siete tiel vontot siete or ololidis or amantis ilmont oditite sietava or votisieta da scientitin, ol in o diesieto, o in o diesa, dor irvi diesiete diesieta, dor vontosiete diesieta tate, ol unton sietate. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, there's a lot going on with that. Thank you. And although I felt both of them in my body, it felt like they were kind of more for the grid, really, than obviously they come through us and they anchor through us. But I was feeling it was almost like it is raining here, so that might be influencing it slightly, but like golden raindrops of light coming down. But if you would look closely, they're all little diamonds, they're all little like octahedrons. But I definitely felt a lot going on, heart and higher heart. And solar plexus actually as well. Like I feel it now in my solar plexus. Was there anything you wanted to share from that?
Overall, just being present in the every moment in the now is just basically what's more important. I mean, even if we're off planet halfway right now, as we move through each and every single moment, I think that the most important thing is take things lightly, don't take yourself seriously, don't allow projections of others come your way and influence your energetic field. I mean, I think that's one of the biggest thing that's come up so far with everything. It's just really feeling that sense of flow and standing in your sovereign self as activations are happening constantly for everybody to no matter what, take what really resonates, discard everything that doesn't, and don't just put yourself in a box and this is who I am. We really are in a moment right now, as the channeled message that came through the other day was total reconstruction, but demolished, and new divine blueprint coming in using new materials like the crystalline energy, the solar sun, all those energetics that are out there that are really helping to flow to really stand with the new structure. And I'm seeing like this really geometric shape going all the way up with kind of like technology field, but at the same time, it's intricate synchro geometry that is being built. And it's the channel too for the connection to not only our higher selves, the oversoul, it is also the other aspects that are coming in, because this is what we're pulling in and we're embodying it. And really taking in that wisdom to use that knowledge that we've known. It doesn't mean when we're discarding something that all the wisdom is taken away. We're becoming the Akashic in ourselves and really activating that for us to really step into this unknown right now in full strength and with deep love for humanity.
Beautiful message. Thank you. And the geometries just feel like the building blocks. For me, it feels like we speak geometries with our light language. We're not just creating geometries through the light language, but we are actually speaking geometries. Whew. Thank you, Delia. It's been really, really lovely to chat.
Thank you for the invitation.
Anytime, sweetheart, anytime. And thank you, everybody who has joined us live and who will join us on will be joining us on the replay and on YouTube. And if you find it helpful, please share. You'll find more of these Love Speaks Love on my YouTube channel, which is Inner Peace with Denise. Where can people get hold of you, Delia?
Facebook is the best way. Messenger currently at this moment. I do have a website that I'm rebuilding currently at this moment, so that's the best way. And mostly that would be overall. If you post towards my page or something, might not see it, so best way is Messenger. That way I have contact information and we can go from there.
Brilliant. Brilliant. And you're with Todd on Monday morning?
Yes. Oh, next Monday, I actually have my Shishamic friend who is my star brother that I actually live nearby, and I'm so excited to actually have him on. He is generational Shishamic line, as well as his family has been working with the star family for a really long time. So that connection is really strong. And aside from his personality and everything else, such a beautiful soul. I'm sure everybody would totally love that energy.
Amazing. The feel of that already feels incredible. So yeah, thank you for that. And I think I'm chatting with Todd on Tuesday.
Hooray! I look forward to the entire week. I know that we have a huge lineup, and he already let everybody know that who was that? Rebecca is coming on. That he's been waiting to collaborate for a long time, and Pamela. Rebecca was somebody else.
Yeah, Johnson. My mind's going blank, like with names. But yeah, Pammy. All right, that's going to be amazing.
So thank you so much, and I look forward to catching you in your show again. And I love this. Thank you. Love you so much, everyone.
Love you too. Thank you, Delia. Thanks, everybody. See you next time.